a lot of our mythology is really derived out of our interaction with the sea. In fact, one of our oldest legends about how our civilization came about is related to the sea and the Great Flood. So there is this legend about this ancient king Manu, who was the king, incidentally, of the Dravidas, who was warned by the god Vishnu that there would be a great flood. And then he builds this big ship in which, very much like the biblical story of Noah, he brings in seeds and animals and so on. And then there is this great flood, and Vishnu, in the form of a fish, Matsya Avatar, then guides this ship through the great storm and the great flood. And then, of course, they come to rest near the Himalayas and they re-establish civilization. Now, this myth is there in almost every major ancient people in the world. You find this in Southeast Asia among the Lao. Even the native Australians have certain legends to talk about the Great Flood. And of course, we do know that the world's coastlines were all flooded at the end of the last ice age. And so it is tempting, one can't be sure, but it is very tempting to believe that this is a folk memory of these great flooding that happened of our coastlines, and of course had a huge influence in human migration, human civilization, and so on. So yes, they are myths, but I think I like to think of them as being folk memories of many things that may have happened in the past. And of course, many of them are living in many, many ways. So, for example, if we take Odisha, one of the great maritime cultures of India, they still have a festival called Kartik Purnima, which happens on a full moon night in November. And it happens roughly at the time when the winds change from blowing from the south to blowing from the north. And they have a custom when particularly the women and children go out to a water body and put out small boats with a lamp on it before sunrise. Now, for a long time, people wondered why this was the case, but if you begin to investigate it, you very quickly find out what it really is a memory of ancient Odia seafarers who used to use this change in the wind direction to sail out to Sri Lanka and finally sail on all the way to Southeast Asia. In fact, there is a fair that is held simultaneously in Cuttack called Bali Yatra, which literally means the journey to Bali. And there are plays that are performed as a part of the ceremony. Particularly, there's the story of Tapoi, which is again about people going off on a long voyage and what happens to them. So there are many such things. I mean, there is of course a shadow puppeteering, which really has its origins in the fact that these mariners sitting in the boat, perhaps homesick, perhaps whiling away time, and what did they do? They put a small lamp behind the sail and they acted out things using puppets, and that's the origin of shadow puppeteer culture that is there both on the eastern seaboard of India, but of course is even more prominent in Southeast Asia. They have the wayang kulit and other cultures in Malaysia, in Indonesia, and so on. You have, we look at the masks of the Odia and the Andhra coast and compare them to those of Bali and Sri Lanka. Again, you can very distinctly see that there is obviously a link. So these are not things that happened just in the past. They're really a living part of our culture, our civilization, a living part of oral tradition. And it would be a real pity not to recognize the importance in how it made who we are.